everyone. Welcome again to another episode on BeyondBiz. Super thrilled to be having Juan with me today, who's an incoming candidate at Harvard Business School. Thank you, Juan, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Abhijay. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Could you quickly introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. So my name is Juan Pablo. I'm originally from Chile, South America. I'm an incoming MBA student at Harvard Business School and Harvard School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. I have a background in the Navy here in Chile and in startups. So that's me in a nutshell.
Quite interesting, right? You talked about Navy and startups, which is not very common to see. So could you tell us a little bit about your pre-MBA background?
Sure. So right out of high school, I joined the Navy here in Chile. I studied electrical engineering with a concentration on communications and radars and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I really wanted to focus more on tech and technology development, which is not something the Navy does a lot in-house here in Chile, usually outsources it. So then came an opportunity that the Chilean Navy had posted like a public challenge that it needed some problem solved with technology. And I applied with the team and we actually did very well. We won second place in that competition and that got us funding to get started. And that's how my startup was born. It was kind of like I didn't do it on purpose at first. I just wanted to solve a problem and it turned into a company.
Wow. So that's inspiring, right? You want to solve a problem and it turns into a company. So I just want to understand a little more about this Ocean Tech startup. Sure. That's pretty unique. Can you tell us a little bit about what does the startup do and some details about that?
Yeah, sure. So, this came from my time in the Navy. I did some of maritime law enforcement in my time in the Navy, enforcing fishing activities, strange activities on vessels and all that kind of stuff. And the problem that the Navy actually posted is that they have data on every ship that's in Chilean maritime area. But it's about 2,000 ships at any given moment. And they have one or two operators looking at a screen, trying to analyze and see if anything weird is going on. So it was very impractical. It was almost impossible for people to do it. So what we built a software platform that analyzes all this data automatically using traditional software, statistical models, and a bit of machine learning, and alerts the operator when something strange or abnormal is going on. So he can, in the platform, he can configure, some thresholds of what is normal, and also use these machine learning models to get alerted when something weird is going on. So now they don't have to look at the whole big picture of the 2,000 vessels. They just, start looking at these alarms, and they have much better response times now.
Awesome. Looks like a real important problem to solve. And when you have technology doing that, you can definitely scale it much faster. So kudos to you on that idea. Just wanted to understand now that that you've been doing, you're in the Navy and then this Ocean Tech startup. So why do you feel the need for an MBA? How do you think a Harvard MBA would help you?
Sure. So basically, when I came into the startup world, I quickly learned that I didn't know anything about business. Coming from the Navy, from the military world, business is not something you're taught or experienced at all. And coming from an engineering background, economics, accounting, finance, I didn't know anything about that. So actually one of my co-founders was my professor in the engineering school, and he had attended Harvard Business School but for another program. And he recommended doing an MBA to sort of get up to date on everything that's business. And that's when I made the decision. I started looking for MBA programs, and I found this MBA program at Harvard. And I just thought it was perfect for me. It was exactly what I wanted to do, tech entrepreneurship, tech ventures. So I think at least for me, it was a perfect fit. And I still don't know how, but I got in, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's a big black box. Nobody knows, what makes that decision take in your favor. Okay, now since we are talking about an MBA, let's change gears and ask a little bit about, of course, about the exams needed, right? Like the GMAT. So do you have any tips for folks who are preparing for the GMAT, because that's an essential part of the application?
Yeah, start preparing as soon as you can. Even if you are thinking about doing an MBA, maybe not now, but maybe a couple of years later, maybe do the GMAT right now, especially if you're just going out of college. I didn't do that. I thought about doing the MBA. I learned what the GMAT was, and it was a lot of pressure because you have to do GMAT, the essays, you have to talk to your recommenders and all of that.
Right.
So doing it all at once, which is what I did, I really don't recommend it. I talked with another Chilean that's also going to the MBA program, and he took the GMAT right out of college. So he came with this training, of answering tests, questions, and all that, and he did very well. I had to take the GMAT 3 times to get a good score. So, and for preparing, prepare with time, and do a lot of digging. There's a lot of free online resources out there. So I took a course for the GMAT at an institute. I honestly did not like it.
Okay.
I think that only prepared me to answer the easy and medium questions, not the hard questions,
Right.
which is what you need to answer to get a good score and to apply to these top MBA programs. I didn't have a lot of difficulty with the quant side coming from engineering, but I really struggled with verbal. So in the end, since I wasn't doing as good as I wanted to, I actually found a teacher, and I took some personalized classes for the GMAT, and that really propelled my score forward. So another tip is, if you're not doing well, get help as soon as you can. Don't be afraid to ask for help. The GMAT is just a barrier that you need to cross and get a good score, basically.
Yes, absolutely, right. It does not matter if you take it even 3 times or 5 times. It's the highest score that counts. And I think this is a very valuable tip, that you start early, because people often underestimate the time the GMAT could take. So totally agree with that as well. So now, once GMAT is done, then we move to the essays, right? Now, the Harvard essay is so open-ended. So when you saw that question, what did you think was the best way to answer that? And how did you go about answering the essay prompt?
So I think it's very important that your story makes sense. That's the first part. So I sort of try to tailor my story about where I came from, what I was doing now, and what I wanted to do in the future, so that it made sense. And I thought that coming from the Navy, transitioning to an ocean tech startup, and wanting to keep doing that afterwards made sense. So I wasn't saying like, I came from the Navy, carried a startup, and now I want to work in investment banking. I mean, if you have good reasons, that could work out. But I think the main thing is that you need to be truthful about your goals and what you want to do. So if you haven't thought out well what your post-MBA goals are, I would recommend taking a step back, thinking again, so that your story makes sense to the admissions committee. Another point I think is very important is that the admissions committee doesn't know what you don't tell them. So it doesn't matter if you're a great candidate and you know it, and your friends know it, and your family knows it. You have to show that on your essays, on your GMAT, on your recommendation letters, on everything, right? So if you don't tell them something, they won't know it. So another point, going with that, I think, and this is the approach that I took with an admissions consultant, which I think we can talk about that afterwards, is thinking about your key strengths. So what are your key strengths? What do you want the outcome to know about you? And you have to sort of match that to all of the resources you have to show that. So the essays, your CV, the short answer questions, which are very important, I think. And also you have to kind of like 3-way match that with what the school is looking for. So usually an MBA program will have a who are we looking for page, and Harvard does have that. I have it open here. It says habit of leadership, analytical aptitude and appetite, and engaged community citizen. So basically you have to make sure that, 1, your story makes sense, 2, you are showing the parts of you that you want to show, and 3, that they're aligning with the school values. By this, I don't mean that you should fake your story in order to align, but look for ways that you can interpret your stories and your experiences so that aligns with the school values, basically.
Yes, I think that's a very transparent and honest advice from you. That need to, you have to tell your story in a way that aligns with the values of the school, but at the same time, you cannot go overboard and, let's say, fake something which you have not done. So
yeah,
I totally second, your thoughts on the essay. You did mention admissions consultant when you're talking about your answer. So did you actually work with an admissions consultant? And if you did, would you recommend others getting an admissions consultant?
Yeah, I work with an admissions consultant basically because, again, coming from the Navy startup world, I had never gone, I've never worked for a big company or anything. So I didn't really know anyone besides this co-founder that had gone to the US to do a master's or something like that.
Yeah.
So I then met another guy from the Navy. He's at MIT right now, and he recommended getting an admissions consultant. And this is the one I'm using, and I recommend her very much. So I work with an admissions consultant, and I think I completely recommend it, totally recommend it, because I think all this that I just said about the essays and all that, this is what she taught me, You need to show what you want to show, otherwise the applicant's not going to see it. And also tailor and get those key strengths that you want to show and how to show them in the essay and all of that. So it's kind of like learning that the application process is actually strategy that you need to work out. So if you, for example, have you just show one key strength and you show the same strength in your essay, your recommenders say the same in your recommendation letters, you answer the same in short questions and your CV, you're just showing one side of yourself. And that's, I think, a typical mistake that someone might make that doesn't know how the admission works, basically.
Right.
So I definitely recommend working with an admission consultant. I did, it worked out very well. I applied to 4 programs, I got into 3. So I think it was great. Again, it doesn't have to be, I don't know. Later, I learned that there are these big consulting firms for admissions. I didn't know that before. I don't think it has to be that. It doesn't have to be, the best consultant from the best consultant. I think it needs to be someone that understands your story and that can help you show your story and your strengths and values in the best way possible. That's basically helping you show yourself in the best way.
Yeah, a lot of the times the recommender would also cut the time very short in terms of getting to the point on what is exactly needed to answer the question. That also saves you time for doing endless research and helps you tailor the answer to the specific question. So many thanks for that.
Yeah.
When you were applying, did you think that you're coming from let's say not a very traditional background? Like, I think your background is quite unique given you have this Navy experience coupled with a startup. So did you think of that as like a hindrance or a shortcoming when you were applying? Or did you think of it more as a strength?
At first, I thought it was a weakness for sure. Usually when you go into all these online forums or there's these videos on YouTube, handicapping your MBA with John Byrne, I think is his name, and the HBS guru. So he would talk about military applicants, and they would say HBS only likes pilots and SEALs, and I was neither. I was a Navy engineer, so I was like, I'm not gonna get in. And then I would look at another profile from a startup founder. HBS doesn't like startup founders. That's what they would say, and I would say, damn, I'm not gonna get in. But then working with this admission consultant, she told me, your different background, your non-typical background is actually your strength. I think they're going to have a hard time finding a non-US military that's also a startup co-founder. And that's why she would say your combination is so unique that if they see it as something positive, you're going to get in. If they don't, you're not going to get in, but it's because you didn't align with the school. That's what she would say. So I think the best thing to do is, if you come from a non-traditional background, for example, consulting, investment banking, I think tech now, I think it's okay. It's okay. You need to showcase that as a strength, that you're going to bring more to the table. You're going to bring different views, because no one else in the applicant pool might bring them to the same views that you can. I think that's how you will want to play it out.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Sometimes people fall into the trap of self-doubt when they have a very unique background, but I think it's a double-edged sword. You can use it to also your strengths. And I think that's what your recommender told you. That's fantastic. So, let's talk about some of the other elements in the application process. Is there some advice you have for folks who are applying this application cycle in terms of what items should be tackled first, or any general tips in terms of the application process that you would have to share?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said before, if you can do the GMAT before, that's great. If you didn't, that's okay as well. You can do it all at once, but it's going to take a lot more work. So I think the first is to get the GMAT out of the way. That's how I did it. Another thing which requires a lot of time is your recommendation letters, because you need to talk to your recommenders, let them know where you're applying, what the program's about. For example, some of them might ask for some bullet points about what you would like them to talk about in the recommendation letter, and also remind them that they need to send the letter. So you need to think that your recommenders are busy people. They have jobs, they have families, they have all the same stuff you do. So you need to be on top of that. So that no letter comes in late. And I also think that you need to take a lot of time to work on the essays, especially for HBS, since only one essay and a big essay on a hard question. I think it takes a lot of reflection time to really come down to a distilled version, a good version of the essay. I might have done, I don't know, like 20 drafts, something like that.
Oh, okay.
So I iterated like 20 times.
Yeah. The
first time it was like 3,000 words, way too long. And then, you stop iterating, reading it, rereading it. I got my wife to read it, and, thinking out those bits and pieces that didn't work, putting on some new pieces. So, I think you need to at least take a year to apply. I started applying, with the application process in February. That's when I started studying for the GMAT, and you apply in September for round one. And I think I could have used more time, definitely, especially for that combination GMAT essay. When I had both things going on, it was a lot of work. And I think upfront, people don't realize how much effort you're going to put into each of those parts of the application.
Yeah. Absolutely right. Only when you get inside, you realize this is gonna take some work, especially with the essay drafts, right? You write one draft and then you see how much work that needs. Totally second that as well. I had a similar experience working on multiple drafts for my HPS essay. But you did mention that you got into 3 of the 4 schools that you applied to. So what was the thought process behind choosing HPS? Of course, the fact that it's HPS, but other than that, was there anything else that you decided, either when you were narrowing down on choosing the schools to apply to, and also in making a final decision? So what were some of the points you thought through before choosing HPS?
So I think one of the main points is what I wanted to do afterwards. So if you have a clear post-MBA goal, I think you're going to align much easier with each of the schools that you get into. So the thing about HBS, it was specifically the MS MBA program for me. That's what did it. It was a program tailored to exactly what I wanted to do, which was tech, entrepreneurship, and ventures. So I had that mental ranking in my head. If I get into all these programs, I'm going to choose this, and I sort of played out every possibility before. So when I got into HBS, I said, "This is it. This is where I'm going." And I had committed before getting all my admission responses from all the schools, because I knew this is going to be my top choice, specifically for this special program that was tailored to what I wanted. Yeah,
absolutely. I think sometimes folks, what they tend to do is also apply to a lot of schools, and then they realize this is not really where they want to go. And if somebody has a clear process or clear idea that this is the school, if I get in, I will go, that tremendously helps in making the decision process very easy. So glad that you had that clarity, and you also gave an acceptance to HPS early on. Now, let's say, just to rewind back time, let's say you had to do this process all over again. I know one thing you told me is that you would take the GMAT early on and give more time to the application, but is there anything specific that you'd have done differently, be it, choosing a recommender or getting a higher score on the GMAT, or what have you? What would you have done differently if you had to apply all over again?
So I think I wouldn't have taken that GMAT course at the institute. I would have gotten the basics down with free resources, which once I got into it, I learned that there were. So you have eGMAT Club, can't remember the rest, but there are great online resources, YouTube channels, pages. Specifically for GMAT, I recommend that you track your progress. So I didn't do that at first either. So you have all these question types, and then when I started really getting into it with this personalized teacher for the verbal section at least, I started tracking, how many critical reasoning questions I got right, which ones I got wrong, which reading comprehension and sentence correction. And I think that helps a lot. So you can really narrow down which weaknesses you have specifically for the GMAT. Another point I think is that you need to trust in yourself. You don't, like we talked about earlier, you're gonna have a lot of self-doubt when applying. You're gonna think every day, some days you're gonna think there's no way I'm getting in. Then the next day you're gonna think I might get in. I think everyone has something to bring to the table. Everyone has something special that they can bring into the cohort. And basically your job in the admissions process is to show that. What's the special thing, which you do have, and I can show everyone that they do have, what's that special thing that you're bringing to the cohort, into the section experience, or in any other school that you're applying? So again, you're gonna have a lot of self-doubt during the application process. I think I definitely had, I think you had as well. I think everyone in the history of MBA application has. So again, just to say that's normal, and work at it. It's a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it. And I think that's basically it. Really take advantage of the online resources for GMAT. Again, I can't stress that enough. I paid a lot of money for that course in the institute, and I thought it was inferior to what's online for free. So, and then if you do get stuck on something, find help early on. There's a lot of GMAT tutors. I definitely took one. She helped me out a lot. She was specialized in verbal GMAT. And I don't know, I think in a month, I went from, so in the first GMAT, I got a 690, then I got a 700. And I always kept looking at, the average HBS GMAT is 730. I said, I at least need to get that. And then I went from a 700, I started working with this tutor, and she got me up to a 780.
Wow.
Just for that, verbal gap that I had. So she sort of, re-taught me all the basics, and that's another thing about the GMAT. And I'm sorry that I talk a lot about the GMAT, but I really struggled with it. I was getting, right answers in verbal, but for the wrong reasons. And I didn't know that until I started working with this tutor, So I thought, the answers were right for one reason, and that was actually not the real reason. And that was actually, I was not letting me get right answers at the hard question level. So she basically retaught me all the basics, brought me back to elementary school. What's the structure of a sentence? What's all of that, and it was great. So again, don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it.
If I knew that you'd scored a 780 before, I probably would have done the session only on the GMAT. But it's amazing. It's a very high score, and I'm pretty sure that going from a below 700 score to a 780 is a big jump. So amazing work at that. Now let's talk a little bit about the HBS interview, right? Once you get to know that, okay, you receive that email from HBS saying, we would like to get to know you better. So how was that, approaching the day of the interview? What are some of the tips you have to share for people who want to prepare for the interview, be it for HBS or for the other schools that you applied to?
Yeah, so I think specifically HBS, it's a very different kind of interview. So in all the other schools I applied to, on the interviews, there were a lot of, I'm not going to say friendlier, but it was more relaxed. And it was usually done by an alumni and not an admissions person from admissions. So it was kind of more of a conversation. It lasted about an hour and a half. And, it was very relaxed. The HBS interview is very uptight because it's half an hour and that's all you have. And it's half an hour on the clock. And it's a lot of questions in a very short time, which is not to say that it's not friendly. The admissions interview was very friendly, but it's intense. And I think that you do need to prepare for it. I recommend doing mock interviews. And that's, again, where the admission consultant comes in. the one I worked with, I did like 5 mock interviews, and she would grill me down for half an hour on the mock interviews. So again, I think this whole admissions process is a lot of preparation. You need to take it seriously and do everything you can to get it right. When I started this process, I said to my wife, we're all in. Whatever it takes, we're all in. And that's how you need to think about it. Getting the admission consultant to work on the essays, work on the short answer questions, work on the interview, do the mock interviews, take the time. It takes time and it's hard. And you're gonna get uncomfortable, when they start drilling you down the questions in the prep. But that maybe when I actually had the interview, the questions weren't asked, hard or uncomfortable, or it was kind of like, I'm not gonna say walk in the park. It wasn't easy either, but I was prepared for it basically.
Yes.
And you need to be prepared for the HBase interview, because I don't think it's easy.
Yes, totally agree to that. And I really love how upfront and straightforward you are about the time somebody has to spend on an HBS interview, because it really is not a trivial interview to ace. It's not like you can go unprepared and answer all their questions. It's a very structured interview, and they really want to get to know you better, and you have to think fast. Okay, so that is really, I think, I mean, you can't ace that interview without practice, and that's a very strong message that you send out. So thanks Juan for sharing that. Awesome. I think we're nearing towards now the end of this interview. Just wanted to ask, what's the best way? I'm pretty sure that now that you have a very high GMAT and you're going to HBS, so a lot of the folks will have some questions around any of these two aspects. So what's the best way for folks to connect with you?
I think LinkedIn is the easiest way, because you just look at my name and I'll pop up. I usually answer any question that comes my way regarding GMAT or MBA on LinkedIn. Since I shared the first time that I got in, I started getting a lot of questions. So if anyone just wants to cold message me, they're welcome to do so. I usually answer questions, when I get time. But again, I think especially your initiative to do these interviews, they're really great, because I wish I had that when I was, applying and looking for information. And sometimes you don't find very, transparent information of personal experiences during the admissions process. So I think that's really great. And if I can help in any way, I'm happy to do so.
Absolutely, Juan. I mean, thanks to people like you who volunteer their time, because now once we share this with a lot more people, I think a lot of the people would have similar questions, and this video would help them answer these questions. So thanks a lot, Juan, for doing this, and I really wish everyone all the best with applying in this application cycle. Thanks everyone. Thanks, Juan, for doing this.
Thank you. Have a great day.